In today's video, I want to talk about a Travis County Sheriff's Deputy named Joshua Johnson, badge number 3734. I'm going to read you a letter contained in his personnel file that you can obtain through the Freedom of Information Act. This letter is from Major Darren Long. It's dated March 19th, 2013. This is concerning a internal affairs investigation that was conducted against Deputy Johnson. The subject is disciplinary recommendations. I have reviewed this internal affairs investigation, Johnson's employee development folder, and the recommendations submitted by his supervisors on February 26th of 2013. I met with Johnson in my office at the Roots building to discuss the situation with him. Captain Kovar attended this meeting as well. At the beginning of the conversation, I explained to Johnson the importance of being honest and straightforward during our meeting, and Johnson said he understood. This case involves Johnson removing property that was taken or received from inmates that have been processed through central booking. The items were recovered from a secured gun box that only Johnson had access or key to in the Sally Port at central booking. It's important to note that the three separate items that Johnson removed belonged to inmates involves statements from three tenured staff members, including two sergeants that have no recollection of the events Johnson described. During an initial interview with Johnson, Sergeant Stewart asked him about the jewelry box he claimed that was a Christmas present for his daughter, but later recanted that. I believe that was a blatant lie. I don't believe anybody would forget about a Christmas present for their daughter they had purchased. During our conversation, I questioned Johnson about the printed booking screen of an inmate that has been redacted here, with the booking number that's been redacted. He claimed that there was a mistake on the screen, so he printed it out and placed it in his pocket. I later attempted to review the printed version of the booking screen collected as part of this investigation, but according to the evidence sheet discovered, it had already been destroyed. I then reviewed the photograph of the printed booking screen in the case file with a fingerprint magnifying glass and compared it to the version I had printed today. I found no discrepancies in the pertinent information gathered during intake. The only information that changed between the two screens was release information. As a reminder, the information contained on this booking screen is protected TCIC/NCIC information, and its misuse would constitute a Class A misdemeanor. I was a booking officer for over 2 years, and I cannot recall a time when I felt the need to print a booking sheet and fold it up and place it in my pocket and then remove it from the secured area. I then questioned Johnson about the folded look-alike pocket knife that supposedly Officer Houston gave him. Johnson verified to me that Houston is a known knife collector and expert of sorts. He has given Johnson knives in the past. He also agrees that they both very close as described in the file as so-called surrogate father. But yet when questioned by Internal Affairs, Houston had no recollection of giving Johnson this very unique pocket knife. The knife was also wrapped in clear tape. typical of how knives taken from arrestees at booking are handled when placed in their property bags. Since I was not convinced Johnson was being forthright and honest with me, and during this investigation, I asked him if he would be willing to take a polygraph to clear his good name. His reaction was slow, but he agreed to voluntarily take the polygraph. I assured him that only questions pertaining to this case would be asked. I also told him that I would request 2 questions listed below be asked during the polygraph examination. I told him that if he passed the polygraph with no deception detected, I would concur with his supervisor's recommendation for the other policy violations. I then explained that if deception was detected, that I would proceed with a termination recommendation for untruthfulness. After the interview was over, I explained the situation to you and Internal Affairs Sergeant Jones, and both of you agreed that the polygraph would be scheduled. I was later informed by you that after meeting with Johnson, his client attorney called and informed you that his client no longer wanted to voluntarily take a polygraph. This raises my suspicions even more. Concerning the information I have received in this case, I believe Johnson is not being truthful and should be compelled to take a polygraph examination. During the polygraph examination, at least 2 questions should be asked of Johnson. Number 1, has he ever intentionally taken any property from an inmate home with him? Number 2, did he actually receive the look-alike pocket knife from Officer Houston? If deception is detected where these questions are posed to him, then Johnson should be terminated for untruthfulness during the investigation. If not, then I concur with the chain of command's recommendation for 5 days, 40-hour suspension without pay for the other policy violations. This, to me, is fantastic. Just how is it possible that a man who's getting paid $40,000-$50,000 a year, who holds the trust, the public trust, is a thief and a liar? I mean, the information, secured information being removed alone is a Class A misdemeanor. That's 1 year in county jail and a $4,000 fine. The theft, and clearly this was theft, that depends on the value. This could be a felony. This could be 6 months in prison. However, April 26th, from Jim Sylvester, the chief. Subject: disciplinary action, Internal Affairs. Number redacted. I have reviewed the investigation and the recommendations made by your chain of command as it pertains to the investigation, as well as your work history with this agency. I also gave you the opportunity to give your version of the incidents when we met on April 8th, 2013. There was a substantial finding that you violated Travis County Sheriff's Office Policy 3.1.11, Contraband Control, Policy 5.5.2, Property and Evidence, and the agency's Rules of Conduct. Number 1, work toward goals. Policies. Number 4, obeying orders and rules. Number 6, unbecoming conduct. Number 7, dereliction of duty. It was also unsettling that during the investigation, your account of how the property came to be in your possession could not be verified by your peers or supervisors, nor could you explain as to why the property was stored in your gun box, in which only you had access. As a result of the choices made by you, I feel it's no longer mutually beneficial to continue your association with the Travis County Sheriff's Office. Therefore, your termination will be placed into effect after all appeals have been exhausted. If you wish to appeal, blah, blah, blah. And then we move to May 3rd. Memorandum from Greg Hamilton, 101. The Travis County Sheriff. I have met with you, Sergeant Hodge, and Mr. John Curtis, your CLEAT representative, to discuss the above investigative case. During our conversation, you appeared stoic and unresponsive when questioned about certain stages of the internal affairs investigation. Your inability to illuminate and or corroborate your account of how the contraband ended up in your gun box, that you, and only you, possessed a key, was very disappointing to me. Moreover, because you were in possession of field training officer, and I expect more poise and ability to clearly articulate their viewpoints from someone who assumes that title. After visiting with Lieutenant Pina about these incidents in question and receiving input on her reasoning for her recommended corrective measures, I have determined to assess the following: 40 hours of leave without pay to be served May 31st, 2013. Removal from Field Training Officer Program for 1 year after completion of the suspension. Although it is still unclear on what your intent was in placing these items in your gun box, I have chosen to believe, based on Lieutenant Pina's character reference of you, that this was just a mistake when you violated both the contraband control and property and evidence policy. I encourage you to use this as a learning experience and to grow from it. Go forth and do well. Shocking. This is shocking. This man committed a Class A misdemeanor, possibly a felony, lied about it over and over again, but the sheriff chooses to believe this was a mistake and decides that instead of arresting the man, instead of charging him with this misdemeanor and possible felonies, he sends him on vacation. This is a clear-cut case of badges equal special privileges. You can be a thief and a liar and keep your job and go on vacation. Concerning the items that were taken, this was a knife, apparently a collectible knife, and a gold chain. And we don't know the values of these. We don't know if the items were returned, if the property was returned to these individuals. No charges were ever filed against him. So I'm assuming that they were either returned or who knows. But we have no evidence of this. We have no evidence of the value of this property. This is, you know, an undetermined felony. We don't know. Without knowing the value, we don't know how much time this man should have served. Now, these incidents happened in 2013. Joshua Johnson, badge number 3734, was hired in March of 2003. This guy has been had been an officer for 10 years when this occurred. I believe he continues to be a sheriff's deputy to this day. I may be wrong. I do know that he was promoted, and I know that looking through his employee file, this particular incident and the investigation of this has been buried under commendation after commendation. Examples are, oh, we want to thank you so much for showing up for work during the blackout. You show an excellent example to new employees, to new officers. Outstanding job with your physical fitness test. You can squat, stand, walk, and even run. These are this is insane. You know, you have potential felonies or potential felons who are proven liars being put in charge of the public trust. The Travis County Sheriff's Department is filled with employees just like this. Employees that are allowed to write up disciplinary reports filled with lies. Joshua Johnson wrote up a disciplinary report against me because I had a seizure. Joshua Johnson placed me in a non-ADA cell in solitary confinement for a week. And every single sentence in that disciplinary report was a lie. But of course, you know, I had the opportunity to contest it. Actually, no, that didn't happen. The incident just disappeared. No due process whatsoever. It turns out someone in the sheriff's department read the disciplinary report, discovered that Joshua Johnson had lied, and the disciplinary report just, we'll forget about that. The next time I saw him, he was in shock. He asked me, "What are you doing over here? Why aren't you still in segregation?" His lies didn't work then. But Travis County continues to pay him $40,000, $50,000 a year to continue to lie, continue to steal. Shame on you. He shouldn't have a peace officer's license. He should have spent time in prison. He should have been punished, not sent on vacation. But that's the Travis County Sheriff's Department's MO. That's their standard operating procedure. Protect the badge. Protect your buddy. Cover up for their lies. Even when it's recommended and well-deserved that he, at the very least, be fired, we're going to choose to believe this was a mistake. Well, they don't do that for the general public. Shame on Travis County.